Finovate showcases cutting-edge banking and financial technology through a global conference series featuring short-form demos and thought leadership. Now, the conversation continues on the Finovate Podcast.
Hi, everybody. Greg Palmer here, welcoming you to the Finovate Podcast. We are continuing our exploration with the FinovateSpring 2026 Best of Show winners. As I mentioned at the start of last week's episode, you can find all of the demo videos from that event up online at Finovate.com/videos. So you can see all of the amazing demos we saw in San Diego. Today, we're going to be speaking with Finalytics, who is one of our companies who took home the trophy there. And joining me, we have Craig McLaughlin, the CEO, and Baron Conway, the Chief Strategy Officer of Finalytics. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us. It's great to see you again, and looking forward to some good dad jokes.
Oh, I don't have any prepared for this. Those are something you have to come to the event to see. I would say don't come to the event just for the dad jokes, though. You're bound to be disappointed. Come for the fintech. The dad jokes are basically an add-on. Let's start by talking at a really high level, just getting some of your background from both of you, and we can dive into Finalytics a little bit more after that point. Craig, I'll start with you.
Thanks. So I'm Craig. I'm the CEO of Finalytics. I started this company 5 years ago, working with financial institutions, thinking about how to get the most out of the digital channel was where I had come from. And what I realized in that time frame was that every community financial institution really had the same business problem, which is how do I leverage the digital channel to deliver that same high-touch personalized experience that I deliver to my customers inside of a branch or on the phone. And how do I then tap into all that data that I have for each customer and use it to deliver that high touch experience? And after working with third-party platforms to solve for that, what we realized is that really the use case for financial institutions was very different than other industries, and that there's so much data on the consumer, and that relationship is paramount. It's a high consideration, long sales cycle. And so we, realizing that there wasn't a great tool to be able to solve for that off the shelf, thought this is a really great use case. Why don't we go and build that? And that's what we set out to go and build. And we're very excited about it. We're having great success and really appreciated the opportunity to be part of the Finovate family for the last, I think, 5 years, but most particularly the last 2 years when we won back-to-back Best in Show at FinovateSpring. So really excited to have an opportunity to share about that. And then also I'm joined with Baron Conway, who leads strategy for us, who has been really kind of taking the vanguard leadership position in driving these demos to such an outstanding winning position.
Yeah, it is definitely impressive to come into it with back-to-back wins, obviously successful at FinovateSpring last year. Baron, why don't you take a moment and introduce yourself as well?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so Baron Conway, I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of Finalytics. I've been in the world of credit unions and financial services here in the United States for coming up to sort of 6 or 7 years now. And while I started my career a long time ago, actually in investment banking in London, my whole time in the US, until I sort of moved over to this side of the world, was really in digital, in marketing, and really focused on business and digital transformation. And what I found most exciting about sort of coming back into the world of banking with credit unions, and especially with Finalytics, was really one of those points that Craig bubbled up. So much of what I've done in the past has been around how do you understand who a customer is, what their needs are, and then try to deliver that highly engaging, high touch, relevant experience to them. And in so many industries I've worked in, the big challenge hasn't been the technology to do it. It's been the lack of data to know what's going on to actually target someone in the right way. And what I always found fascinating is that in banking with credit unions, you have all of this incredible data that is just not being leveraged. And so I'd known Craig for a while, and when Finalytics came along, I just thought that this is an incredible opportunity to transform an industry and take it to a place where not only the industry needs to go, but the customer, the member, the prospect, they want to be there. They want to be understood. They want to be heard. And I think now with what we can do, we're able to deliver that, and it's a win-win situation. And for us and for what we're doing, and especially with what's happening with AI and where the industry is going and all the changes taking place, from my perspective, this is probably one of the most exciting moments in my career that I can actually possibly remember. So super looking forward to this conversation and everything it's going to bring.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And certainly there's so much that's possible now that hasn't been possible. And we're seeing that applied in any number of areas. So, as we talked about, this is your second best of show win in as many years. I think the first question I have is, what have you been doing in the past 12 months? What are some of the highlights of what you've been working on since 2025 when you took home the trophy from our first San Diego event?
It's interesting. So there's a few, we've actually been working a lot. Some of it becomes a little bit more obvious and some of it is more behind the scenes. So as we started to evolve the product, a few key things have bubbled up for us, which are really, really key and where we've seen opportunities for our customers. So the first is really dialing into how personalization can be used to deliver incredible value. So learner models, and these are algorithmic models that can be used across a variety of different sort of types of engagement to really understand how someone is engaging with the brand, engaging with a need or has a need, and then delivering a really relevant experience. And around that, we've started to deploy additional capabilities that actually bring personalization to life in an even deeper fashion. So, for example, calculators. You may think a calculator, what does that do? Well, a calculator is an incredibly powerful tool that shows high intent. And so our ability to marry the idea of a calculator deep into personalization has actually been pretty transformative. A few other things is, a rates engine. So this idea to do dynamics rates publishing across a website and really understand how someone is engaging with the rates. Again, another high intent indicator. So using that woven deeply into the personalization becomes a very powerful tool. And then, of course, one area that I'm most excited about and that we're continuing to evolve is this idea of full funnel reporting, this idea that the digital team, the marketing team, digital marketing must not and should not be seen as a cost center, but should be seen as a growth driver and a profit center. So that ability to know not just who submitted an application, but to actually know who funded and the funding amount and what that looks like suddenly becomes transformative for marketing and digital teams. Because not only do you get the insight, but you can now start to optimize your business around true success. And that when we think about what we showed during the demo, those are some of the things we really started to bubble up.
So that's a piece I'd love to just follow up on a little bit more, because obviously hearing about these pieces is one thing, seeing them live on stage is a different thing altogether. And so there's kind of two questions here is, what were you able to show this year in your demo that you weren't able to show last year, just because it didn't exist yet, or because you kind of had a different part of the story to tell? And then my follow-up question there is, how do you kind of decide which pieces you want to emphasize for the demo, which pieces you really want to bring to the forefront in the audience's mind?
It's interesting. So what we showed this time around, there were a number of areas that were kind of behind the scenes. So even some of from the very, very beginning, the example we gave where someone engages with a search ad and then they see a relevant piece of content, behind the scenes, we've continued to improve and refine that piece of content. The ability to show a next best product, that is actually now driven heavily by a learner algorithm that understands the product mix that someone has and then delivers that relevant product there. And then, of course, the full funnel reporting, really making that a rich experience. So I think across the board, actually behind the scenes, practically everything is evolved and improved. But those are three areas that I think were really, really bubbled up.
Yeah. And again, I would recommend anybody listening to take a look at the demo itself, see the full 7 minutes there, and you can really get a sense of how these pieces look and how they work in concert with each other. So, Craig, one for you, what has been the driving force behind these new additions? Is this something that's been, down to customer needs, customer requests? Is it simply kind of a natural progression as the technological capabilities increase? Where would you say a lot of this forward progress is coming from?
Well, I think our development team, like our team has been behind the scenes building this platform from the ground up, and they work incredibly hard and efficiently at the same time to expand this platform that is really designed to achieve any sized organization's goals. So it's something that can work well for a $400 million bank or credit union, which we have customers that meet that profile, up to 70 plus billion-dollar community financial institutions. And so what's missing is this intelligence layer that sits in between these point solutions that most financial institutions have that are most of the time not theirs. So it's a third party platform that they procure and then they brand it and deliver it to their customers. But the problem is those experiences are really independent silos. And so what we enable is this intelligence layer that sits in between all of those tool sets, integrates their data, sucks in their data, and then returns a personalized experience that's hyper relevant to their needs. So it's kind of a ubiquitous problem across the industry. And that's where I think we're having the biggest impact. We made some really good structural improvements this year as well around, creating QSO. We got endorsed by the Credit Union National Association. We're in the midst of finalizing our first international bank as a customer. So lots of really good progress in that regard.
Yeah, and clearly, again, the proof is in the pudding. It was something you just talked about that I want to dive into a little bit more. There's a lot of different types of financial institutions that you're working with right now. Obviously, very strong in the credit union ecosystem, a couple of really big feathers in the cap there. But I'm wondering what you can tell our listeners about how to approach different types of financial institutions, credit unions versus community banks versus larger financial institutions. What advice do you have for other fintech founders on how to kind of engage these conversations and what you might need to do differently as you address different types of FIs?
I think patience is really key. And you have to understand that when somebody says no today, it is not no forever, it's no for now. And these are relationship businesses. They're used to delivering their services in a context of the relationship, and they expect the same in return. So you can't think of what you're bringing to the table as a transactional experience. If you do, it just won't work. You have to be in it, and you have to respond to a text within 5 minutes from your biggest customer or any of your customers, because that's what they're doing for their customers, and they expect it. So I think that's important. And I think playing the long game is really important as well. Understanding that there are really big changes happening in the broader tech ecosystem today, and contemplating how do those changes affect community FIs, because inevitably there will be changes. That I think that's a strong value proposition, and just being patient and really working at it.
I would just build onto that. I also think it's not that it's a credit union industry or a community bank industry or retail bank industry. Every credit union, bank, institution, organization is slightly different. They have different needs, they have different challenges. So, one of our big sort of learnings is get to know the organization you're approaching, you're working with, you're going after in detail. Understand their market, their business challenges, why they're trying to do what they do, where they are in a particular industry, and use that to better deliver what you have to offer. And I think when you do that, you give yourself a leg up on everyone else that's trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, no, I think this is one of those things that's so tempting when you look at any industry, but especially the financial services industry. You kind of want to separate financial institutions into buckets and think I can treat all the credit unions the same. I can treat all the community banks the same. But really looking at them as unique entities, especially when you get to some of those smaller FIs, because they are all a little bit different. They operate in different ways. And the more you can get to know them, I think the more likely you are to be successful when it comes to having those conversations and demonstrating that you're able to provide something for them that they're going to be able to turn around and pass along to their customers in a way that's really going to help them grow. So I think as tempting as it is to kind of put people into different categories, it's always a good idea to do your research and to make sure you're really understanding the individual entities that you're engaging with. One question I do have, are you finding that different groups have dramatically different needs based on kind of the size of financial institution that they are? Or are you seeing similar challenges across all of your potential customers? Baron, I'll let you keep going on that one.
That's a really interesting question. I think overall, the challenge is broadly the same. It's just shades of the challenge. And I think first off, it's about thinking about, Finalytics. It's so easy to talk about the technology, but really what we're doing is we're solving a business problem, or we're delivering on a business opportunity. And that is, every financial institution has this same question they're asking themselves is, how do I better engage the customers or members I currently have? And how do I find and convert new prospects into new members or customers? And I mean, it's the universal challenge, right, of every industry. Within what we see across, credit unions and community banks, is the common question and the common challenge is, how do I do this? I know I need to grow my business. I know I need more members. I need more customers. I'm trying X, Y, and Z. I'm trying my marketing. I'm trying to improve my digital experiences, but something isn't working. And that's, I think, where we come along, our ability to understand that fundamental business problem they're having and translate that into this is how you can deliver a highly relevant experience in digital that truly transforms how someone engages with you. And I think it's about that. It's about the big challenge is understanding that what a customer is trying to tell you is they don't know how to deliver relevance. And what we're able to do is show them how that happens.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important piece. That relevance side of it's obviously something that's really critical. And one of the factors that we should highlight as well is obviously there are a lot of different types of financial institutions in the Finovate audience. And the fact that you were able to resonate with all of them from stage really speaks to the idea that a lot of them are able to see the value in what you're doing, able to imagine how it would look to have Finalytics brought into their own platform. So we are just about at the end of our time here. And I think the question that I want to close with is just, what happens next with Finalytics? Any big plans when it comes to going for the hat trick next year in 2027, or any other kind of future plans that you'd like to share with our listeners?
So I think we're seeing the biggest innovation on our side is in the intelligence layer that is bringing together all of these disparate touch points and making digital banking smarter for all customers, right? So it could be the $200 million credit union or the $70 billion international bank that's all trying to solve really the same problem. And where we're going next is looking about how we can expose that intelligence via APIs so that the CRM, the contact center, and marketing automation tools all are calling data from the brain that we've built. And we're certainly not looking to replace those systems. Like we don't think the world needs another CRM system, but something that actually is made smarter by the intelligence layer data that we're able to deliver. And then longer term than that, I think that every one of us is looking at agentic ready banking and trying to think about how can Finalytics be a part of that to be able to automate processes that simply weren't reasonable even 6 months ago or 12 months ago. But where are the places where financial institutions are spending a lot of time where we can make that work even better through automation and then enable them to apply their teams to do the things that they're so historically great at doing, which is that in-person human engagement, but doing it with the power of the intelligence layer behind them.
Obviously, there's still more work to be done. And as we started the conversation out, there's more that's possible every single day. That's one of the things that makes this such an exciting industry and such an exciting time for our industry. I want to congratulate you both again on taking home the trophy. And for our listeners, stay tuned over the next couple of weeks. We're going to continue to chat with our best of show winners, highlighting all 5 of them from FinovateSpring 2026. Again, those videos are now up and online. I would highly recommend you take a look at all of them, but start with Finalytics. Gentlemen, it's been a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Craig. We really appreciate it.
Check out Finovate.com for information on Finovate's upcoming shows and to learn how you can get involved. The discount code Finovate Podcast will save you 20% on tickets to all of our events. And you can email us at info@finovate.com for information on sponsoring, speaking, or demoing. Thanks for listening.